Dennis Chandler with RTWNow, ReturnToWorkNow.com. We're going to do a brief overview for the members of the Iowa Municipal Workers' Compensation Association. This is an online tool that the IMWCA makes available to its members to support return to work and managing work injury claims. So I'm going to first look at the components of it. So with the RTWNow, you have two databases, one of modified duty examples for city and municipal and detention services. And you also have essential job functions in a separate database. The second major function involves Tracker, and Tracker is a case management tool that receives the data from company nurse within, I think it's updated about every 15 minutes. So I wanted to really look at the Tracker function first. You'll be given a specific login security code for Tracker just for the data for your city or your organization's work injury information. You will log in. We're going to look at a sample database, and you'll open up into a screen like this and go into Find, and then a list of every call that company nurse took on behalf of your organization will be there, along with all the information that the nurse collected. So the purpose of Tracker is to be able to look back at the information on those calls, even though you had an email PDF about that information, and to be able to use the Tracker tool to manage the claim. So we will look at a particular claim. Let's just look at Joe Jones, and you can see that the data is filled in. So as you look at all your claims, you'll see all the data that was collected at company nurse, and you can look at a show details, and it will take you down to all the information on the employee information, how the injury occurred, if the injury was triaged, and where that injury received medical treatment, where the employee received medical treatment. That information will be in there as well. The purpose of Tracker primarily is to record status and notes. So at the time the company nurse takes that call and the data goes into Tracker, the disposition of the medical treatment is not there. So when you get that medical information, you can enter information that allows you to put in a work status. So you can see on this hypothetical Joe Jones case, we've moved Joe from restricted duty to full duty to time loss and back to restricted duty. So it's pretty easy to do. You just select a new status and put a date in there. So you could put in today's date and a new status if Joe, let's say, was on modified restricted duty, and then you can put some details in there and you could save the status. And so what you would see in that case is, as of today's date, 10/15, Joe's on restricted duty, 0 days in that status right now. The other aspect of this, it allows you to put in case notes. So you could put in a doctor's case note. So we could create a case note for Joe today, and the type of note would be a doctor note, and then you could put something like, 10 pounds lifting restriction, no overhead reaching, and you could have an action date to follow up, maybe, and it's a week from now. You could put that he has a follow-up appointment, and you might have like follow-up, Dr. Smith, or full duty release. And you save the note, and you can see that in that we now have a diary for 10/15. If we went up and looked at our diary or our actions, you would see that on 10/22 of this year, we have a follow-up with Dr. Smith for a full duty release. We could click on that diary or action list, and it takes us right back to the claim. And then we could say, well, it was on 10/22. We can put in a new note that he's released to full duty. You would go back and, change the status. So what the status does is it tracks the number of calendar days that an individual's in that status. And it's a way for you to track, without using a spreadsheet or just on paper to, keep a permanent record in your tracker for all your claims. So that's really the overview of this. There's a user guide of Tracker. The next two things I'd like to show you are the two databases in the IMWCA site. So we'll choose that. We'll look at the city-county templates, and I'll also show you that many of your sister organizations have their own database set up, which allows them to modify those if they want to. But we'll just, for today's example, look at the templates. And you can see that these are arranged by department. So if we said, we want to look at detention or public works or secondary roads, let's see what's, in these databases. We'll look at secondary roads. And you can see there's a number of transitional work assignments for people that are in that department. So we could look at any of these. We could go, okay, let's look at the driving roadside task and view that modified duty work assignment. So these are going to open up in a PDF, and it'll let you see the full description of those, and you can also edit those as well. So while we're waiting for that to open up, we can look back and see, how that could be edited. And you can see here's a description of that. And each of these fields can be edited. So you can go in and change the summary. You could change any of the information that's there. And here's the pop-up, the PDF on that transitional work assignment. So you can, those can be emailed, printed, reviewed with your supervisor. So the goal of this was really to provide you with a database for a possible list of modified duties. So you can see that for this one department alone, that we've got some maybe 20, 25 tasks, and you can see from a glance how quickly you could make a decision on these tasks. Administrative tasks, sedentary, you get down that on these like stand, walk, one or two-handed work, less than 10 pounds. So the goal is really to look at the work restrictions on modified duty, come back and look at these tasks and have a discussion. So this database is really to speed up that return to work process. It gives you a number of tasks that have been used by cities and county organizations across the country, and so we pull in the full amount of those for you to review. The second part of this is to look at the essential job functions. So we are still in secondary roads function, and we can see that there are a number of essential job function analysis. These are the physical and mental demands of the regular work. So if we looked at equipment operator, it's going to open up, and you're going to see, what that document looks like is a full, we're going to move this out of the way. There we go. It'll be a full essential job function analysis for equipment operator, standing, sitting, walking, lift, carry, push, pull demands. So we'll tell you exactly, if you looked at this, you could see that there is a frequent lifting of 0 to 10 pounds, occasional lifting up to 50 pounds, and a seldom lift, 51 to 75 pounds carrying equipment. So the purpose of these essential job functions is to use as a template to manage the return to work process or the interactive permanent restriction process, for your employees. What we ask you to do is to review those and evaluate if they're correct. So review them with your department directors and supervisors to say, does this adequately explain the physical and mental demands of this job. And if they have some additions, you can go back in and actually make any correction that you want to on that task, including a brief summary. This whole summary can be replaced. Or if you have a different title, maybe it's an equipment operator / driver one. So that's the purpose of having your own database. You can change any aspect of that in your own database to fit your operational needs. So in review, we've got tracker, data coming in from company nurse. That data will be in there. It's always in there, so you'll have a list of all calls that have come into company nurse, whether they receive medical treatment or not. So that's a valuable database. You can look back in history and determine, how many calls came into company nurse. Secondly, you can have a database access to modified duty and essential job function descriptions in RTWNow and have your own database, set up for your operation, your city, county, or detention center, or wastewater, or whatever. And then you can go in and work off of your own database and make changes that you want to. So the same setup is there by department. You can delete things that you don't want to see anymore in terms of essential job functions or transitional work assignments. So if you're in a fire suppression fire department, you could say, well, I like 4 or 5 of these, and then you can check over here and go down and delete them off of your record if it's not something you want to look at again. So you've been given kind of a full toolbox of things. Same way with the essential job function descriptions for, a fire department, firefighting. You have some of the major essential job function descriptions. So user guide for both tracker and the RTWNow components, and you can request through Ron Sinwell at the IMWCA to be added to this list. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for your attention,